how well he can hear us.
Because when we turn on the computer audio, then I can see it moving.
Okay, I'll just
So
get
it
him
should
to
be
check.
working. And the owl mic does not seem to be working right now.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we need to talk so he can at least, and he doesn't need to hear me, he hears me all day.
But you guys will have to speak loud so that the computer
So
hears
how
you.
loud
We
is
will
this?
speak loud.
Yeah, how loud is
Is that
this?
loud enough?
I don't know, I'm just checking with him.
And can we maybe can we maybe pull the table up closer so that,
Yeah.
do you wanna help with that? That's a heavy table.
This should do.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Thank you. That's the best we can do.
Is that the best we can do?
For right now, yeah.
And can we maybe can we maybe pull the table up closer so that,
There we go.
Okay, so how,
So
Okay,
how
that's
do we
my hearing
eliminate
aid.
that in here?
Hmm?
The delay?
They
No,
were
that
just
was
checking.
Councilor
That was just my,
Oh, sorry, I thought it was,
Yeah,
okay.
no, so the sound.
Yeah, he
went
said,
down.
yeah, he can hear it.
Yeah, perfect, alrighty.
thanks,
Okay.
Jody,
Problem
appreciate it.
solved.
Thank you. Okay, so due to technical difficulties, we've been delayed by around 20 minutes because we couldn't get the audio going. We are doing a makeshift thing here, so I hope people can hear us. And we will proceed with the meeting. Do you have any idea, Sharon, where we were at?
Be it hereby resolved that the minutes for the January 24th, 2024 meeting be approved as circulated.
Oh, can I get a mover, please? Councillor Gendron. Can I get a seconder, please? Councillor Jarvis. Everybody had an opportunity to review the meeting minutes of January 24th, and do you have any questions, comments, points of discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried.
Be it hereby resolved that council approves the accounts payable listing being check number 22473 to 22550, inclusive of checks, electronic payments, and payroll, issued in the amount of $313,626.73 as circulated.
Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Jarvis. Can I get a seconder, please? Councillor Gendron. Questions, comments, points of discussion about accounts payable? Councillor Jarvis.
would it be possible to get some sort of a budget breakdown for the visa bills? Like the one from January was $19,800, and this one here is about just under $9,000. At least by department, because there's some pretty substantial stuff in there, like things. We get some generic explanation, and it says it's $842. And wouldn't that help us doing budgets if we had it broken down by departments, whether it was office, recreation, fire department, public works, utilities?
Okay, so just to be clear, are you asking in the invoice description just to put the department heading?
There must be some, like, I don't know how, like, I don't know the structure on how it's put through, because obviously it's a visa statement. Like, I mean, when I balance my own statement, I mean, I attach the receipts and I know what they're for, but because we have a budget and we have, example, let's say the rec is budgeted so much or public works is budgeted so much, if you have an $842 expense, at the end of the year, is this actually divided by department, or do we just say, well, visa bill is 19,000? Like, how do we know?
So each department, each department does have their own visa bill that gets issued, and each department head is to reconcile and provide receipts for every charge that is listed. And so when we look at the way that the payments are issued in through here, because the process with our municipal software, when the accounts payable clerk enters the data, it's being paid to Visa as like a one lump payment amount.
Mhm.
And so all of these transactions, so some of it is clear with the payment description. PW, Canadian Tire, right? WUT, SUT, it's either water utility or and sewer utility.
Mhm.
So that one charge would be broken between the two different GL lines, water and sewer, because it affects both of them in reference with the conference. So the next one, admin, internet, January to February, so that would be an admin bill, the internet for this.
But what I'm asking is
So-
that, like, at the end of the year, when we're trying to compare actual versus budget, how much of this Visa bill are you aware of in, say, Public Works or like, I have an
So-
entry in here for 4,200 for Harvest Fest, but it doesn't say, and that was last week, it doesn't, or the last meeting, it doesn't say anything, this is Harvest Fest, $4,200.
Okay, and so it's the limitation of the description that we have, so I can certainly work with that 4,200 was the fireworks.
Mhm. Yeah,
So it's the description, like we have a minimal amount of characters that can be used in the accounts payable program, so I can certainly.
Can we at least create a second sheet, as difficult as that might be? But I'm understanding that we had the similar situation with animal control where we're paying a bill and there was no real breakdown of it. And then previously, we had situations in previous years where we have improper journal, we have money and we can't really fully explain the money. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm just looking at some sort of an explanation that we can attach to a department. So if I
So
give.
it is charged, so again, there's a few pieces to it. This is the accounts payable listing. When we look at the budget, we would have expended, for instance, the 4,200 would have been under the events line, we don't have a separate line for events, Harvest Fest, fireworks. Like a lot of expenditures get put into one general ledger account, and we have a listing like our budget spreadsheets that we use to create that budget piece. Those are an admin internal working so that we're providing accurate numbers to those budget lines. So I'm not sure. So just for Visa, you were looking.
Well, we
for
had the same
separate
thing,
Excel
and again, we had the same thing with Home Hardware. And we had a bill for, it ended up being $688, but we had $7,000 in credits that are coming through with a Home Hardware invoice.
So, right, and so I can take a look at what's happening when we look at external payments, so such as Home Hardware. When we look at that, we are at, I don't want to say the mercy, but we have to wait until we receive the invoice statements before we can make payment. And
Well,
so
I'm
if
aware
a
of that.
company is behind through that, when we looked at the credits, that was lumber for the piers. And so although they were returned in a timely manner, I can't process a credit until I actually receive that on our statement and I see that invoice of the credit. And so it turned out in this instance with Home Hardware, there were several months of invoices for this particular payment. But
Yeah.
I can't control that because that's an external entity that's submitting the invoices to me for payment.
And I guess really, originally, we get a breakdown by department. Do you know what I mean? So how much at
So,
Home Hardware does Public Works spend? How much at Home Hardware does the office spend? You know
so
what I mean?
we don't,
At the end of the year, I'm not looking, just to make it easier for us.
so when we look at when we look at individual companies and from a budgetary process, there is never a time that it is budgeted. Home Hardware, we're gonna budget X amount for.
No, I'm not
Never.
saying, but I know, but
We
that's what I'm
never do
saying.
that. What we do is we budget for the expenses.
How much at Home
that we
Hardware was
allocate.
spent by Public Works, and how much at Home Hardware was spent for the rec department, and how much at Home Hardware was spent for the office? That if you have a $10,000 bill and everybody spent $1,000 and it's spread out over 10 departments, you have a knowledge. But if at the end of the year you have a $10,000 bill and you have to go back month by month and say, well, how much was this and how much was that? Like, how can we balance a budget if we don't know how much we're spending?
So, at the February 28th meeting, council will be again moving forward when we deal with our financial statements. You will start receiving monthly financial statements. So at the end of February, you will have January's financial statement that will be based on the general ledger lines that we use.
Right, and it'll break down, say, a
It's not gonna,
$19,000
it's gonna give you the ledger total. I think what you're asking would be very time consuming because we're looking at the way we can only enter our data in one particular way when we look at a vendor. If you're now wanting a breakdown of vendor totals, we would have to look to see if there's a separate report that can be brought forward. But honestly, council, I do not recommend looking at a vendor listing because there could be a one particular purchase from one vendor that was an anomaly in that particular year that could skew why that happened. So when we look at the budget process and we look at the financial statements that are being dealt with, that's where you look at your budget line and where that GL number is. So in the case, I'll use something very simple that's out of our control is water sample testing. By law, we're required to send those water sample testings in. We'll put a budgeted amount of what we speculate based on that we have to submit these samples, X amount of samples every week. Then there's additional big sampling that needs to happen, I believe, quarterly. But if we do have boiled water advisories, then we have to do additional sampling. So we try to put some of those, recognizing that we may have one boiled water advisory a year, look at the amount, and let's say we budget $5,000 for water samples. Whether those water samples are done, and there is only one vendor that they're done by, but whether they're done at Home Hardware or whether they're done at another entity, the bottom line becomes that it's all water sampling. I'm not sure I'm understanding exactly what you're looking for.
If all factors considered, if it's $8,000 a month, 12 months is $96,000 a year that we have in, call it petty cash theoretically, because this is a Visa card that's coming through. Do we break that $96,000 down?
Absolutely, every single invoice gets
that was my original question.
Yeah, every single
So
invoice, every single receipt is provided, every single charge that is on a Visa statement.
And it finds its way to the right department.
Has a receipt, well, because the rec department has a Visa, the public works department has a Visa, finance department has a Visa, and the
And these are all different numbers on these visas.
They all are different card numbers.
Right, so that answers my question. So they're all different card numbers, so ergo, you would know that that's Public Works.
Correct.
And that's all I wanted to know, because this is all lumped into one big bill, and the last two checks have been $27,000.
Well, Councillor Jarvis, if I can just interrupt here, if you'll see on the second last page, or the third last page, where it says Winnipeg Beach Home Building.
Yeah, I looked at that, yeah.
Okay, so the first entry there is UT flow meter box, 2911. UT is utilities.
No, I know
The next
that, but
one is
all I wanted to know
identification.
is at the end of the year, like, it's okay to have this, and Sharon's answered my question, is that they have separate cards.
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was that answers the
Yes.
question perfectly.
Yes.
And
Is
then-
that what I don't want to do is there's one card running around, and at the end of the year, we have to try and figure out where everything's going.
No.
No.
Because, and the only reason I say it, because historically, we've had some big numbers come through here, 27 grand in 2 months. Like, that's a big chunk, and part of our problem is we're trying to go backwards in time to establish financial audits and so on and so forth, and it's tough if you don't know what the card was spent on. That was just my question,
So I will say our accounts payable clerk is very diligent when it comes to entering the payments, and she will not enter something without having a receipt and have it properly coded.
And you know, because of the number, exactly where that card's coming from.
Correct.
That's it.
Because it's a separate safe
Perfect, that
statement.
answers my question, thanks.
Any further questions, comments, or points of discussion about accounts payable?
I'm good.
Oh, you're good.
Thank you, Councillor Kozlowski. You were on holidays, okay. There was something I was going to say about it, but I forget.
The $140,000.
Yeah, what is that?
So the $140,000, I'm surprised nobody's discussing
That's
that.
right.
That is still an ongoing utility project. The original agreement was signed in 2020. That was dealing with our wells. That particular project number 9 was dealing with our wells. There will be, with that particular amount, although that's money that's coming out of the general operating, looking back through some of the documentation, the decision of the day was for this particular project, although it was partially funded through Water Services Board, that the remainder of the town's portion was to be paid through our gas tax fund. So when we caution council, when we look at our financial statements, there will be an adjustment that will need to be made to the gas tax fund to cover off our portion of that of that project. So that project, I believe, is near ending. That should be the last bulk payment for that particular project.
Any further discussion on accounts payable? All in favor? Carried.
Be it hereby resolved that council approve the December 23 draft financial statement as provided.
Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Jarvis. Can I get a seconder, please? Councillor Gendron. I trust everybody's had an opportunity to look at the draft financial statements of 2023, December 2023. Questions, comments, points of discussion? Okay. All in favor? Carried.
Item 7.1, review of bylaw 05-2021, sidewalk and patios.
So this item was brought forward in 2023 and council asked for it to be put back on the agenda, so it's put back on the agenda. What kind of conversation are people wanting to have in terms of the sidewalk patio bylaw? Councillor Gendron.
I'm just wondering if perhaps this needs to be tabled until we finalize our downtown parking issue, because the two are connected.
Okay, what do other
Make
people
some
think?
decisions on parking.
What do other people think?
Yeah, I'm not opposed. Yeah, I agree with.
When are we tabling it to?
Until we deal with parking, and we have it on the agenda today that we are going to be setting meetings outside of council meetings. We have to deal with a variety of things, including parking. So we're going to set a parking meeting so that we can have some final discussion and decisions around parking. And I guess then at that time, are you suggesting at that time or after that time we then look at the sidewalk patio?
I just said the two are so closely connected, we need to either make decisions on any changes that may be happening to parking or decide that we're leaving it status quo. But until we've firmed up how we want to see parking on the downtown Main Street looking, this can be, depending on how long the meeting's going to be, once that decision is made. The other thing we need to be mindful of is we are in a bit of a time crunch, because it takes two council meetings, two meetings to make any changes, and April, May, they're gonna start applying for their patio licenses, so,
For May 1st.
yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna be setting some meeting dates today, so we'll have to keep that in mind in terms of time being of the essence. We'll set meeting dates in terms of dealing with parking, and then hopefully we'll be able to get this on the next agenda. If not February 28th, then the following agenda, mid-March.
Yeah, so we're in 2 in March and be in time for getting something done before businesses are wanting to apply for their license.
Okay, that makes sense for folks?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Unfinished business 8.1, building vacancy.
Okay, so in terms of the old credit union, just to keep people apprised of the situation, the credit union decided to move out of Winnipeg Beach, not because we raised rent, not because there was renovations that needed to be done that we wanted them to do, contrary to what's being posted. They are moving out of as many bricks and mortar, and so they're closing down some bricks and mortar, and they decided to close down the bricks and mortar in Winnipeg Beach. And we certainly aren't happy about that. We had a bit of a heads up that that was gonna happen because they only wanted a 2-year lease the last time they signed a lease. And so we have the building here, and I think Councillor Jarvis, you asked for this to be put on the agenda in terms of having discussion. All of council has had an opportunity to walk through the building. We've had some initial discussion about some renovations that need to be happening in there, and some ideas in terms of what we can be using it for. So what further discussion would you like, Councillor Jarvis?
Well, we had talked about it initially. We have 2 perfectly functional offices in there, and I know income tax season is upon us already. If we advertise to lease out those spaces, even because I know that a lot of people, especially in the Interlake, have to go into. I personally ended up going into Stonewall in the last few years, but I used to have to go every year into the city to get my income tax done for my business and so on and so forth. Is that we could probably advertise, and if we get 1 or 2, be those legal people that come out, and rent it maybe for a Saturday or for a weekend, and they basically, instead of all of us going into the city to have our income tax done, is that they can accomplish it here. And if we get whatever price, it's another source of revenue for the town, and they're functional, they're there, they won't interfere with what our, any of the renovations that we want to do, and if we can generate, $500 to $1,000 a weekend, so be it.
Okay. I'm just wondering, we had talked about seeing about getting a BSC grant to see if they could cover the cost of some of the renovations, and whether renting out space before the renovations are done would be feasible in terms of disturbing tenants that might be there during renovations. Do other people have any thoughts about this?
It would only be on the weekend you're renting it out. So if they're
Well,
working during the week, yeah.
Not necessarily. There could be a business that shows interest. If we advertise now, a business could show interest that wants to rent
Maybe.
Monday to Friday. We don't know who might be interested. Councillor Kozlowski and then Councillor Gendron.
Yeah, I think if we rent it out, that whoever comes in there and it's renovated by us, they might want to change that. They might want to change the scope of the renovations that we've done already. That's my quick on it.
Okay. I guess part of that for me is, do we on council want to decide what we want to use it for? Like, have we decided we want to use it as a business center? Has that been a decision of council? And then open it up to businesses who want to rent it, and then talk to them about what renovations they might want in order to use it as a business center? I don't, we've had that discussion, but I'm not sure that we've made that decision yet. So I want to check with council first, as opposed to putting the cart before the horse and just sort of opening it up and saying, well, it's for rent, without us having made a final decision about what we want to use it for. Councillor Gendron, you wanted to go next?
No, I'll hold my thought based on sort of what's just been discussed, but other than, generally, if you have a business center, and that's what you're offering, and suitable tenants, like, I know our discussion was short-term, not necessarily, although we may be open to somebody coming in permanently, but I don't know if we want to start doing go to the expense of customized renovations as a landlord versus doing what we can. Another thing we discussed was this is the only place we have for meetings. So another thing that was tossed in was, do we want to use that front area and get a boardroom table and use it for meetings for ourselves and make it a spot we can rent out as well? I just don't think we've had enough. I don't believe there was a decision made. There was a lot of discussion. Another thing is, I did check with one of the large tax groups, and they said that'd be great, but they're all suffering the same problem, which is shortage of staff. So to be going into a small community versus using their staff in a bigger community, it wouldn't be attractive. And the other large companies are having the same issue with trained staff too, so.
Okay. Councillor Jarvis?
When it was operated as a credit union, they used both of those offices for extension of their services for financial planners, for legal departments to write wills. I'm not suggesting this is a permanent thing, but if you advertise it and say, you could have 1 or 2 or 3 accountants that say, you know what, I'll take that space for 2 days, $250 a day, we generate $500. They don't need a lot of space, they just need one of the offices to sit down and they go in there and they boom, 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 and just finalize your taxes. So I'm not suggesting that it goes in on a permanent basis, I'm just saying that we could advertise if somebody's looking for space, we have space available, blah, blah, blah. And if you don't put your rod in the water, you don't get any bites. So, I mean, it's sitting there right now and it's been there for a couple of months, and if we could generate revenue for the town, go for it.
So you're not talking about leases or anything else?
I don't know leases. I'm just saying that if you had Jackson Accounting Services and you wanted to rent 2 weekends out of there and bring in your clients from anywhere in the Interlake, and rather than them going into Winnipeg, came to here and did it, and you could just crank off 10 or 12 or 15 tax forms in one day.
Sharon, do we have internet connected in there?
No, so when Access left, they just cut all the lines. So I do have Ange looking into our Starlink. We would need to look at getting a router put in there for sure. I'm not sure how connection works, if we can run it off the Starlink account that we have for internet. But that is something that she is looking at.
Yeah, we could.
What was that?
We could.
We could.
That was my question too, is that we're kind of jumping the gun because there is no internet over there, there's no fax line, there's no,
No.
Yeah, and
So-
they did
they gutted everything and cut the lines.
just cut the lines. I don't think, it's just the familiarity of the service providers in the Winnipeg Beach area. Because we are not with Bell Internet, I'm not sure what that looked like, who can do that. So that's where we were just, she was looking at the data today in reference to find out if we wanted to extend our Starlink there, who's our service, who is the service provider that's going to come and put the ends on those wires and get the connectivity working.
So I'm wondering, we're going to be having to schedule a bunch of meetings in the next couple of weeks in terms of dealing with rec, dealing with parking, dealing with budget, blah, blah, blah. I'm wondering, as opposed to having a separate meeting for this, can we attach this? Because I think this is going to be a shorter discussion in terms of coming to some final decisions and timelines in terms of the building. Because I agree, right. We shouldn't have it sitting empty.
So the CAO does need some direction. If it is of interest to council to just look at, from a small scale position, not entering into lengthy lease terms, or to just put advertisement of use of office space, I do need some direction of council in order to do that. And so I think that was, although we know there isn't a long-term vision at this particular junction that we are looking at on the short term, the long term, really looking at what level of funding and what renovations and what use of building and those types of things. However, on the short term piece, I believe Councillor Jarvis is suggesting that we still advertise that there is office space available. And so what is council's position on that?
Once we get the internet set up. Councillor Jarvis?
I have my hand up because I think we should put in we should bring it up to speed. At least from the internet and everything else. We're going to use it anyway, so let's not wait for that. Let's get that done right away. And I agree that we'd advertise and see if you never know. Right now it's sitting empty. It's not doing anything for us. So.
Okay. Oops, sorry, I missed that.
Yeah.
You were first?
Yeah.
The other thing I would like to suggest is individual locks on those office doors, so that if somebody is renting for a period of 3 days, they can just lock it up and.
I think it does lock.
Okay,
I think
one at a time, please.
Yeah, I would agree with Councillor Jarvis, how we put out a tender or whatever to rent it out ASAP, and whoever goes in there, they might want to renovate it themselves to their specs. And I know we're losing money right now, we're losing, maybe $17,000 a year on that building. So I say the sooner we get going, the better.
So I do have, with the current contract, the cleaning contract, I did have a conversation working late for that Spark Willow Cleaners to provide us with some sort of cost estimate, because cleaning will also be a level of expense for that as well. I just don't have that to date, but I have requested for her to put some numbers as what that looks like.
Okay.
So the CAO is then authorized to address the router.
Yep.
The internet connection, locks, look at the locks on the doors.
Yep.
And advertise for space, and then the cleaning contract will come for, for the initial piece, we would need to have the cleaner come in to clean the spaces. So the initial cleaning of the space is authorized as well, and then looking at any kind of longer term contract for cleaning services will be brought forward to council. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So. So the resolution will read, be it hereby resolved, the CAO is authorized to incur expenses for the town office building, the vacant portion of the town office building. I'll write it and then I'll go through. For the expenses of internet connection, locks on the doors, advertisements, and initial cleaning services.
Correct.
Okay. Mover, please.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Jarvis. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Kozlowski. All in favor? Carried.
Unfinished business 8.2 for council discussion, Donato compost accessibility.
We'll just start with discussion. I trust that everybody has had an opportunity to read this. It was tabled last agenda because we had minimal quorum present.
Donato doesn't keep records of who goes for compost. They're not going to keep records.
So if you remember from last meeting, sorry, some brain burp there. Remember last meeting, the Village of Donato has suggested that we could access the compost at the Village of Donato if we go 50-50 on the screening costs. The screening costs they're suggesting are around $12,000 a year, or $12,000 one shot. And that means the cost to us would be $6,000, and we would then have the compost available to anybody in Winnipeg Beach who wanted to go and use it and pick it up. They can't keep track of how many people are using it or not using it, as I think you had suggested that we look at.
Yeah, I'd asked if that information was available so that we could maybe, if we were going to consider doing it on a 1 year basis and see whether it's worth it for us.
Yeah. So what do people think?
Andrew.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. I think people that want to compost are already composting. I don't think necessarily that it's something that we need to be spending $6,000 on if we can't even do it. I'm just a little curious to know, they knew how to screen us out, but now they can't figure out when we're coming. So I just don't think it's a worthwhile adventure. I think if we're going to compost, I'd prefer to go to the one that's a cost shared one that we had looked at earlier, that then you've got people who are serious about composting.
Okay, other thoughts? Councillor Kozlowski?
Yeah, I agree with mostly what Councillor has said. I don't think we have significant numbers here that do composting, and I don't think it would be worth $6,000 to this town to continue with that.
Okay.
So I would be against that.
Councillor Houle, Councillor Jarvis?
Yeah, I don't think it's worth the $6,000, to be honest. I think it's more of a way for them to keep, because at this area, grab compost anyway. So,
I can't.
well, maybe they know you, but yeah, I don't think we should be spending the money on that. Not right now.
Okay, Councillor Jarvis?
I'm a personal composter, I don't think we need to spend the money. People who compost. So, and we have an opportunity we have an integrated garden service right in town, and we can use them, and she probably would educate, because it would be in our interest to have her do a talk at the Larry Moore Park on how to properly compost in your own backyard, rather than invest $6,000 into another.
Wow, they have a compost in the park.
Okay,
The garden.
Councillor Kozlowski.
Didn't this come up a while ago that we could buy composters for the people, and
That would-
maybe enough people have
That's something
If I could
that,
ask the gallery, because we don't have the owl sound working, we are using the laptop, so the feedback, if you do want to have a discussion, please just step outside, that would be wonderful. Only because of the technical difficulties that we have happening, that would be great.
I think you're talking about the countertop composters that we talked about a couple of months ago. Councillor Generon, you had been referring to those?
Yes, yeah, I think if we're going to be putting any money into composting, I think the cost share manner would be better, if we're gonna be putting any money into composting.
And I believe that composting program was a minimum of 50 orders. Is that not true?
I believe so.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, minimum of 50 orders, and it would cost the town $150 per order.
250.
No, 150 for us and $100 for the citizen who might want, the taxpayer.
Plus additional costs using it with the filters and those types of
Right.
things that would be borne on the
So
homeowner.
if we got a minimum of 50 taxpayers who wanted to do it, it would be a cost to the town of around $5,000. Is council wanting to go forward with either one of these things?
No.
Okay, well then this is done.
Be it hereby resolved that council approve the draft consolidated financial statement for the year ended December 31st, 2021 as presented by Reed and Miller Chartered Professional Accountants, and further be it resolved that council authorizes the mayor and CAO to sign the 2021 representation letter.
Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Jarvis. Can I get a seconder, please? Councillor Kozlowski. Discussion. All in favor? Carried.
Unfinished business 8.4 emergency measures media training for council.
We don't need a mover, do we?
There is no resolution as there's no cost as part of this. It's looking at
Right.
dates.
Okay, let's look at dates for the media training.
Sorry, did you
Councillor
get,
Generon.
did you get dates from everybody, and can you tell us based on everybody's
Not
reply?
for media training,
Oh, okay.
no.
No, so
Okay.
the dates that are being suggested is March 8th, 9th.
March 19th, March 25th.
Oh, pardon me, March 8th, March 19th, March 25th, and April 3rd. Any of those dates more helpful for others than others? Councillor Jarvis.
Isn't the mayor the only person that's allowed to speak to the media? Like, what's the
Yes.
concept of the course?
So I believe that as part of our emergency measures plan, there does have to be emergency measures training to council. I can clarify if Napier Consulting is looking at running other training for council. But if for all of council, but at some point, all of council and staff will have to have a level of training with emergencies measures.
And Councillor Jarvis, to answer your question, yes, there is some bylaw somewhere or policy somewhere that says it's only the mayor who's allowed to speak to the media, but I think that we need to review that anyways, A and B. I think if we had an emergency here, you know, a catastrophic flood, tornado, those kinds of things, I think it's unrealistic to believe that the mayor would be the only person speaking to the media.
I mean, I don't care, but just, to me, it sounds, there's usually a media tent, and if you have 4 or 5 people, like, you need one solid answer, and you would be the representative
Yes.
for us.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, and we've all seen witnesses where people, even in the beach, without getting into names, where people start talking
I
to the
know.
media, and there's a big problem.
Yep.
So, I'm capable of doing it, but I understand the concept that you would be the only person that would do that.
I'm certainly Councillor General.
Just keeping in mind that we don't know who might be impacted by a catastrophic event. And Councillor Jarvis, you may be the only one not impacted and the only one available to speak to the media.
Exactly.
How fun could that be?
Well, and I mean, this is when it would be needed is in
An event.
catastrophic
Yeah.
event.
I just,
Yeah.
okay,
So,
yeah.
Can we
I
just pick a
understand.
date?
Any day.
Can we pick a date,
The only-
please?
April 3rd is not good for me.
April 3rd is out.
So are they gonna come here and give the town, like all our people, let's say to the Legion, whatever?
It's not for the people, it's for council.
Yeah,
It's not for staff also, Sharon said?
Yes, it is for council and
Council
staff.
and staff.
We can table this item and I can get additional information such as where is the meeting held, but
Can we just pick a date?
Yeah, I think we should do a date.
Would we like the 19th or the 25th?
25th is a,
25th is out?
Me too.
Okay, let's do the 19th, March 19th. Can
Perfect.
we do that?
March
Perfect.
19th.
Brilliant.
Okay, I will discuss that I will have additional information. No resolution is here at this time, because I don't know if I don't suspect there's costs incurred, but if there is, I would need a resolution.
No,
So I will have.
March 19th it is. Thank you.
Okay, new business.
Okay, we're what, halfway through? No. a quarter.
9.1, septic pump out agreement.
Yes, here we go. Okay, we have had a discussion about the septic pump out tenders. We have had discussion at the table before about this. There had been some suggestion, and I certainly am in agreement with the notion of not tendering out our septic pump outs this year. I think last year, or no, previous years there have been problems with people being able to get on the waiting list. There have certainly been suggestions that maybe we allow our taxpayers to hire whoever they want to hire to get their pump outs done. It would only be done when our lagoon, it would only be done in terms of dumping into our lagoon during the windows of opportunity, which is a week during June and a week during sometime September, I believe. There is complications to that in that we would have to get passes or keypad to the access to the lagoon so that we can keep track of who's dumping, who's not dumping, where it's coming from. But that would be instead of going to tender. It might, in my mind, also allow for some competition in terms of pricing, and it would also allow people to use whoever they are comfortable with using. That's my bent, but other people might have different opinions. Councillor Jarvis and then Councillor General.
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we had some of our biggest concerns were emergency pump outs, and because we had a one company deal, that's where it started. So I think that was the biggest obstacle we had to overcome. And if we don't tender it, we just, as you've described, that's gonna solve probably the biggest problem that we had.
Absolutely. Councillor General.
What about putting out an expression of interest that would then allow any company that would be willing to service this area get a pass, and then rather than just sort of it's Sunday and somebody gets a hold of somebody that can do an emergency pump out who hasn't done one here before, and then there's the issue of, well, they can't get in. So at least if they just register as a company that is interested in providing service to the area, we can provide a list of the companies that have expressed an interest to do service, and they can all be given a key card pass to get in to do their dumping.
Other thoughts? Councillor Jarvis?
Just need to be refreshed, because I think Councillor Poole had the right answer, or an answer on this, is that with that keypad thing, is that we're capable of keeping track or not?
Yes.
No.
No?
So why we're not at this point is that there is no internet service at the Laguna Station. So it is functioned, it is set up in order to be able to do that. We already do have the fobs that are available. The issue is when logging in and accessing the data, we can't pull any of the data because there's not an internet service that's there that we can tap into. So when we look at the reports, we may be able to with the service provider, I'd have to look into that further. They may be able to pull the reports, but like I said, we do have the fob keypads that are there. But right now, because of the internet service, knowing who went in where, how do we pull the report system without an internet connection? We can't obtain that.
Councillor Jarvis?
How costly is that?
It's not a question of, it's the whole set system in place is in place already. The delay with it being fully functioning is due to Valley Fiber has that area identified as one of the key connections, as well as like with the rec center and some of the other areas.
That's right.
It's just been that delay of
Are we allowed to push buttons?
of hooking that in.
With Valley Fiber?
I have sent an email out today to follow up. I have been working with Valley Fiber on various matters with internet connection here as well. As this office was slated prior to Access pulling out, that they have run the wires and it was slated for a connection service.
If we include in that the concept of, we have a window in May for pump outs, can you please accommodate that so that we can use this? They might speed up, they might circumvent something.
So I have been bumped around, and I do have a new person that I've reached out to, and so I'm hopeful that they will clearly hear my displeasure in the length of time it has taken to hook the municipal buildings up to their service.
Okay.
So,
Councillor Gendron?
Is there a reason why we're waiting for them, and perhaps, like, this is a very serious question. Is there not another service provider we could be checking with for service? Bell MTS now has fiber optics in the area.
So agreements have been signed. Land has been allocated to Valley Fiber for this project, and so I can't answer that because I don't have an answer for that.
So I'm wondering, Councillor Jarvis?
I had a similar problem with Valley Fiber, and they installed the wrong stuff, and I told them, and they have a crew, within a week they had it and it was completely redone.
Okay.
So, and the only reason I said is that just tell them that.
Okay, so is it safe to say then that we would prefer to go this direction with no tenders if we can keep track of who's coming in and who's coming out at this point, and leave it with our CAO in terms of getting, dealing with Valley Fiber and making any decisions?
The capability of still entering in there, that what we need now is, until there's internet, is verification of log. That's
Yeah, without that, I don't feel comfortable doing,
you know.
not having.
And so at that point, like there are provisions that can be looked at. We could be looking at in the case of emergency pump outs, we could add or revise. I'll have to take a look if it's through by bylaw when we look at our fees bylaw to make an amendment if the bylaw isn't structured in such a way that can be amended by resolution for additional fees instead of going through a whole bylaw process.
Right.
By resolution. We could look at increasing or including a fee for emergency pump outs because it would be the call out that the service provider would have to bear. So we are still working on with the fobs. The issue is we do have until May, June, is when we have our 3-week window of pump outs. So we are still actively working on that, and hopefully that we have it at full capacity at that point. But what cannot wait is the decision as to whether or not we're tendering
That's right.
or not tendering. And so are you stating, Councillor Houle, that the decision to tender or not tender is contingent on the fob system working? Is that what you're
Well, I think
stating?
it's huge. I think we need to know who's going in there and who's dumping and how often they're dumping, because there's dumping fees, is there not?
There is.
Right, so those dumping fees, and depending on what kind of system's in there, we should be able to generate a report directly from the system, maybe with a laptop or maybe with.
There's no, so what I've been informed is that there's no internet connection that's there, so the service provider might be able to gather the data, but I can't log in and obtain the
Right, you have to be on site, but what I'm saying is, with other access control systems that they're using, you can have an on-site laptop that you can actually pull a report and print that report right in that building. They could set up user access, so we could in fact see who is coming in.
Okay.
I'd feel more comfortable at that point.
So you're saying, Councillor Cool, that you would be comfortable not going to tender as long as we have a way of tracking who's using and who's not?
And we will.
And we will have some system put in place for that, for sure. Otherwise, are people okay with not going to tender? Keeping it open?
Yeah.
Okay, does that need a resolution?
It's in there.
Yes. Be it hereby resolved that council does not enter into a single service provider agreement for the collection and disposal of sewage effluent within the municipal boundaries of the town of Winnipeg Beach.
Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Jarvis. Can I get a seconder, please? Councillor Gendron. All in favor? Carried.
Red River Basin Commission Fish Dinner Gala. Be it hereby resolved that Councillor Gendron is authorized to attend the Red River Basin Commission North Chapter Fundraiser Dinner being held in West St. Paul on March 20th, 2024 at a cost of $85 plus applicable taxes, out-of-pocket expenses, and travel per diem.
Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Jarvis. Can I get a seconder, please? Councillor Kozlowski. Discussion? All in favor? Carried.
Thank you for putting that on there, Sean.
Item 9.3, Manitoba Wheat Supervisor Association one-day seminar. It was written as a request, an invite to municipal elected officials. If no one is interested, this item can be received as information.
Councillor Jarvis.
I'm interested in going to that.
Okay,
And I am coincidentally on the Selkirk Week.
Yes.
Control.
absolutely. Is anybody else interested in going? Okay.
Be it hereby resolved that Councillor Jarvis is authorized to attend the Manitoba Wheat Supervisors Association seminar being held in Carberry on March 13th, 2024 at a cost of $105 plus applicable taxes, out-of-pocket expenses, and travel per diem.
Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Kozlowski. Can I get a seconder, please? Councillor Gendron. All in favor? Carried.
Be it hereby resolved that council approve Tara Antichow to attend the MMAA Leadership Summit being held in Brandon on April 26, 2024 from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. at a cost of $250 plus applicable taxes, out-of-pocket expenses, and travel per diem.
Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Jarvis. Can I get a seconder, please? Councillor Gendron. Discussion? All in favor? Carried.
Be it hereby resolved that council accept the January 2024 asset management status report provided by Urban Systems as presented.
Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Kozlowski. Can I get a seconder, please? Councillor Houle. I trust everybody's had an opportunity to look at the asset management status report. Let me just look at this. Yeah, it certainly is a very comprehensive report, giving us lots and lots and lots of information and things to pay attention to in terms of go forward plan and what we need to pay attention to. Councillor Jarvis, you have a comment?
Can I get a hard copy on this?
Yes, you
Please.
can. And so council knows that at some point an in-depth review of this plan, there are Excel spreadsheets that become very much in-depth that are just impossible to put in a PDF format for the agenda. That gives a bigger breakdown of the.
It sounded really hard to read on.
Would any other council member, we are looking at creating a council binder with some of the pertinent documents. And this is one of the documents that would be printed in your binder.
That would be very good.
Okay.
Ryan? Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried.
So item 9.6 is part of the whole asset management project. One of the components that's mandatory as well is to have an asset management policy. So the consultants did draft based on the report that was provided and the interviews that were provided. A draft was presented here. If there is any concern with that prior to me composing that into town letterhead and format, if there was issue, then I would change that, make those amendments, and then present it for council to approve.
It's good.
It's good as is.
I think it's good as is. Anybody else have any concerns or questions?
Okay.
Okay.
Manitoba Foreign Direct Investment Seminar.
Councillor Jarvis,
I'd be interested in going to that too.
I thought you would be.
And I'm on the Community Futures Board.
Yes.
Well, there you go.
Be it hereby resolved that council approve Councillor Jarvis to attend the Manitoba Foreign Direct Investment Seminar being held in Portage La Prairie on February 27th, 2024 from 10:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. at a cost of $30 plus applicable taxes, out-of-pocket expenses, and travel per diem.
Make it a mover, please. Councillor Gendron, thank you. Councillor Kozlowski is seconding. Any further discussion? Councillor Jarvis, I hope you come back with lots of good information about getting foreign investment. All in favor? Are you telling me to be quiet and just call the question? Is that what you're saying? That's what I thought. Pretty good. I won't take it personal. It's good. Go for it.
So RCMP policing priorities, this is where I did send an email off. They were hoping to look at having that prior to the end of February. However, based on the email and the availability, the only date, there were no dates available that would coincided with them as well. So I did send a couple of the dates that would be available, and they are running, I guess, some short-staffed, and they had requested to see if it could be in March sometime. So there are calendars there also to look at.
Is this what the calendar here is for?
March 19th is booked.
Right, March 19th. What is March 19th again?
That's your EMO, depending.
Right. Okay. Do they have particular dates in mind?
They didn't, they just said those dates in February they were shorthanded, so they were asking if there's anything in March.
They wanna come here?
Correct.
How's March 13th before our council meeting?
No.
No,
I'm in February.
of course you are.
I'm in Las Vegas.
Are you in Las Vegas March 11th?
No, I'm not.
How's March 11th?
How's the 12th?
That's the 12th.
I can do the morning, I can't do the afternoon.
They shouldn't be that long though, right?
No, I suspect
An hour.
at tops, yeah.
Can we do 10 o'clock in the morning?
10 a.m., March 12th. I will see if that works.
Do we wanna look at a couple of other dates in case it doesn't work?
Okay,
How about the 5th of March? Or the 26th?
The 26th of March?
Or the 5th?
The 5th of March? The 5th of March won't work for me.
26th?
And let's do the Thursdays then, 7, 14, 21, 28.
14th out. Still on the 5th.
7 or the 21st?
The 21st.
21st is good?
March
Going once?
21st.
Going twice?
Same time, 10 a.m., is that what we're saying?
Sure,
And then what about the 26th? Just giving them 3 dates if possible.
sure.
Okay.
28th.
28th?
I thought you said Thursdays.
28th is a Thursday.
Okay.
21st, 28th, 10 o'clock.
And or the
The 5th.
5th.
Yeah. 5, 21,
And
and
you'll
20.
send
Not
an
the
email
5th.
on that,
I certainly
on
will.
confirmation.
You bet I will.
I know that.
No, sorry, it was the 12th.
The 12th.
12.
The
12th,
21st.
21st, and 28th.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
Well, that was easy.
9.9, food cupboard request for council discussion.
Just give me a second. I'm anticipating that folks had the opportunity to read all the documentation in terms of the food cupboard. And we have a request before us in terms of adding a lot to food cupboard. Discussion. Councillor,
I'll defer to Councillor Jarvis.
Isn't the lot covered counterintuitive? Like,
I believe that they're wanting a lot, I believe that they're gonna be leaving the open cupboard with food, and then when they have a whole pile of food, 12 jars of peanut butter, they'll have 2 jars of peanut butter out on the open cupboard, and they'll store the other 12 or 10 in the lot cupboard and replenish as they need, as opposed to having.
why don't they store that at home then?
This is the question, this is the request.
Because,
This is a request that's being made of us, and they would like to know whether we'd like whether we could have a lot covered there.
I'll let Councillor
Thank you.
John speak.
This started as a request for a spot to put a food cupboard. This has clearly evolved to more than was originally presented. And it's becoming a lot more for those that are coordinating it. I am just wondering if perhaps it might be helpful to council if we invited Lisa Teal to come as a delegation to a meeting and sort of talk about how she sees things going, maybe, what are her long-term thoughts on this, so that we can have a more fulsome discussion on how we might be able to provide supports, or is the long-term vision more than we can support? I just think it would be helpful for us moving forward if she came and talked to council as a whole about what her thoughts and plans moving forward are. Based on the information provided by the recreation manager, I don't think the request is feasible at this point.
Councillor Jarvis.
I concur. I think that this we're just gonna go back and forth until we're we need to be in a face-to-face and have questions answered as opposed to keep putting them off. So I would like a presentation, a Q&A.
Okay, I really appreciate what Lisa Teal and her group of volunteers are doing. I think it's absolutely amazing. She's giving a lot of her time and energy and resources, and it warms my heart that it's being used so well. And it also is quite sad that it's being used so well in terms of taxpayers in our community struggling. So I think it's a fabulous resource for our town. So I'd like to try and accommodate her request as much as possible. And I think it might be helpful to have her come here as a delegation and do some talking with us about how it's going from her end, and ways that council can support her in what she's doing, for sure. Councillor General?
Yeah, I just think that, so I maybe need to clarify, I think it is a fabulous idea. I know it's not easy for her to have to keep coming back, and so that's why I'm hoping that we can maybe look at what her long-term vision is, and that we maybe, you know, if we have the ability to support what that long-term vision is, like storage space in another area of the community center that isn't being used or can be used for this, and if the thought is that it's going to keep growing, then maybe we provide more than she's asking for right now, so that she doesn't need to keep coming back to us, and she can feel comfortable with just moving along as the need is there and the product is there for her to put somewhere.
Yep, for sure, for sure. Okay.
Okay. CEO to request delegation.
We don't need a resolution for that, do we?
No.
Okay.
Backup generators service program, be it hereby resolved that council authorize, do not authorize the CEO to sign a service contract between the town of Winnipeg Beach and Pritchard Industrial for a 3-year generator service program.
Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Jarvis. Can I get a seconder, please? Councillor Gendron. I trust people have had an opportunity to review the documentation. In my review of it, I thought that our public works foreman was suggesting that he would be able to do this work without too much difficulty. Is that correct?
Yes, and there is an addition that was provided that explained the amount of hours.
Yeah.
The addition is not on the agenda.
I knew that. It's somewhere here. And so I don't see any reason why we should be going into a signed service contract with Pritchard Industries when our guys can do it and do just as good a job. And it's no cost to us, and it gives them the ability to track what's happening with it and what's not happening with it. And it is a matter of doing a monthly service for 2 hours and 4 hours annual end of year service. So I kind of think that's probably the way we should go, but I'm certainly willing to hear from other council members. Councillor General.
So we often look at things, doing them in-house as opposed to sending them out. And we often say there's no cost. There is a cost, which is what the additional information is about. And so based on the cost of in-house doing it versus externally, it is far more cost effective for us to be doing it internally. But we do need to look at, there are costs associated with doing things in-house.
Yeah, when I say no cost, I'm talking about no additional cost besides the wages.
Yeah. Okay.
Other comments?
I like in-house.
Yep, in-house for me
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So the resolution, oh, you can do that part.
So the resolution to read council does not authorize.
Uh-huh.
Pritchard.
Okay.
Can I get a move? I've already got that. All in favor? Carried.
Be it hereby resolved that council accept the 2024 budget from East Interlake Planning District as presented.
Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Jarvis. Can I get a seconder, please? Jeez, I'll jump into the pump. Councillor Houle. I trust everybody's had an opportunity to look at the budget from EIPD. Any questions, comments, or points of discussion? Yes, Councillor Jarvis.
I'm just a little confused as to why that we pay almost twice as much as what our board pays.
It's based on the
It's based on-
percentages.
It's based
But
on
but our
usage.
costs, if you look at the budget, what they've budgeted and historically what we've used, we're almost identical to our board.
It's-
Yeah, if you look at
Based on usage.
building permits, we had 14,900, they had 10,900. On plumbing permits, we had 1,000, they had 1,200, so they beat us on that one. On zoning and development, neither of us had any money. On conditional variance and conditional use, we had $900, they had $400, we're almost bang on what they budget for us and what they budget for our board, but they want 14,000 from us and 7,000 from our board. Why don't we at least, I mean, if they're gonna pay 7, we should pay 9. Why are we paying 5 more thousand? If we're almost identical.
Because the services provided, it's not just about the cost of the permits, it's about the services provided. So if you look to the back page, you will see that Arborg had a total number of services of 80, and we had a total number of services of 151. So that's almost twice as much permits and stuff that was happening in Winnipeg Beach. The costs might be different. I can apply for a permit at my house to do a building addition, and it might cost me, $55,000, and the guy in Arborg, could be applying for a permit and it could cost him $200,000, but it's only one permit that needs to be put through. EIPD. It's only one meeting, one plan that has to happen. So you're not looking at the cost of the permits, you're looking at the amount of permits and services that they've had to provide. So if you'll see in 2020, Arborg went to EIPD 70 times, we went 131 times. In 2021, they went in 53 times, we 138 times. In 2023, 110 times, us 185 times.
Now,
So
are
that's
these,
what we're paying for.
granted, but is it based on the scope of the work? Do they pay for that permit?
It's obvious from the back page here that it has to do with the yearly average, the overall total average. That gets divided down into what percentage of work
Okay.
they're having to do, and then the budget is dealt with accordingly.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments, or points of discussion? Oh, did we have to, all in favor? Carried? Sorry, I'm just a little tired.
Item 9.12, 51st Annual Interlake Municipal Bond Spiel Invite.
That's not gonna happen. Is anybody interested in joining this bond spiel?
I don't curl.
Because very frankly, I'm not. Curling is not my best subject.
I'm a fish in a tree.
You're a fish in a tree?
When I curl.
I'm with you.
Okay.
So received as
Received
information.
as information.
Emergent measure, municipal emergency coordinator in training proposal for council discussion,
Can,
or
okay.
I do have a resolution prepared, however, it does need to have council discussion. This is a new initiative.
It does need council discussion. Did people have an opportunity to read the CAS? Did people have an opportunity to read the CAO report on the MEC and training?
Mhm.
And so basically, we need to have a bit of a succession plan. And we need to have a succession plan with somebody who has boots on the ground experience and who also has training at MEC. Don Ems has been amazing for us. He has saved us a number of times with some of the flooding and disasters we've had around here over the past couple of decades. But he's not going to be able to do this forever. He's getting a little bit older, and we do need to get somebody else trained alongside him, because people can get trained in emergency measures, but he has a huge amount. If anybody's ever met with Don Ems, he's got a huge amount of information in his head about our whole area here. So our CAO has put together a report that I believe people have had an opportunity to review. I'd be open to any discussion. Councillor General.
Just wondering if the resolution could include any form of commitment as far as taking the position over at the time, and if the individual does not, that they're required to reimburse us for the training. They may get a better offer somewhere else. It's my only thought.
So my response to that is there currently is no structured position with, like, even your contract with our current MEC is not a single contract with us as the town. It is with the East Interlake Emergency Measures Region.
Mm-hmm.
So that committee has not been active. So this particular piece, no, the resolution cannot refer to that, because absolutely no resolution when you provide training to any member of staff is contingent on service. There isn't even a position for us to offer at this time.
Okay, maybe I need to rephrase what I'm saying. So if I'm understanding this correctly, it's succession planning in the event that Dawn leaves the position.
Correct. I have a feeling, as with, so my personal experience dealing with items such as EMO, fire, when you have a longevity position, such as we do have in this case, there, and as at our last emergency training, you notice there were 2 volunteers. There was a volunteer from Gimli, there was a volunteer from Winnipeg Beach. That is a clear indicator that once a person of longevity leaves a position as this, it will be nearly impossible to fill with one person.
Okay.
And so it seems to me as though what will end up happening, although they will be under the umbrella of the EIEMR, there no doubt will be 2 part-time positions that will work in conjunction with each other.
Okay.
But that has yet to be determined.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Jarvis.
I think Sharon answered it. Like we share, Gimli and Winnipeg Beach shares Don. So we're looking at our own person now.
It's not.
We're not going to share this person.
We're not. This person is strictly being trained as part of through Winnipeg Beach realm. Yeah. As we know, even just when we looked at volunteer coordinators, when we look at the amount of volunteers that are needed when an emergent situation occurs, that is on a local level. And so there was that piece of whose responsibility is it to build those teams, and this is a key person who Dawn feels is more than suited, even with family background, that although yes, there will still be a level of volunteer work that this person will be doing on behalf of Winnipeg Beach as part of that structure, but by looking at a MEC in training is being able to have this person get additional education at no expense to that volunteer.
Yeah. Councillor Jarvis.
It's 8 modules, but is this course broken into 2 sections? Like 4 and 4? Is your actual training thing broken up?
It is broken up, and they only offer the modules as they
In
fit.
sets, right? Yeah.
So
So do we have to purchase, to further what Councillor Gendron says, do we pay for 8, and what if they only do 3?
No.
Yeah.
So it's as the course is offered, it's just giving the authority that as the course is offered, they know they can register and obtain that set.
Right, so they would have like, it's a sectional thing, they go,
Correct,
okay, thank you.
correct.
Councillor
So
Kozlowski.
this cost is not gonna impact our budget by too much, is it gonna be the same roughly as what we're paying down right now?
So there will be an added cost to the 2024 budget with that, but as per my recommendation and as council has heard me say more than once, a municipality is never not spending money. So when we look at expenditures, you do have to be cognizant of a dollar figure. However, it is not solely based on dollar figure. You have to look at that expenditure and the value that that expenditure offers. And so when I look at the added costs of emergency measures training for an individual who is already volunteering, and the fact that we have minimal structure working with EMO, and that the value we're receiving for training someone in an emergency situation is invaluable.
Yeah.
And so when we look at a cost to a budget line of less than $5,000,
Yeah, it'll be around 4,000.
to me, the value by far
Oh, yeah.
outweighs the monetary value of the expenditure. But that is the CAO's opinion, but the CAO is not a decision maker, and so this is for council review.
Other thoughts?
Could there be any training for the councillors in here and yourself, let's say a mock disaster or something, so that all of a sudden we have something happen here and we don't know what we're doing?
I think the last time that Don Ems was here, you know, if we have a disaster, the first phone call is to Don. He comes here with this person. They have figured out the volunteer stuff. They
Yeah.
take over.
But what do we do in the meantime?
So, if I may, Madam Mayor. So last year we did have a mock disaster. As per your emergency plan, it is mandatory that there is a level of emergency training for council and staff every year. So I do suspect, and it is on my to-do, based on the March 19th, if that media seminar is being offered as the mandatory training council receives, or is this just a one-off where not every member of council needs to attend? So once I have that information, I will be bringing that back forward. Dawn will be having a meeting with council prior to next council meeting, as requested of council to do that, so you can ask those questions of if we would like another mock disaster. We would have to initiate that and let him know of dates and those types of things.
Yeah, because Winnipeg's had a few mock disasters, I was on one or two of them, and it sure built your confidence to know what you're doing and what you're going into.
Hence why I feel that having someone in training who is learning from someone who has a wealth of knowledge that you do not gain in a classroom is imperative and should have been part of a longer term planning for the community, because when disaster hits, having people who have the knowledge of and staying focused at the task at hand is 100% very critical. So
So we go to resolution?
is council in support of the MECN training program?
Yes.
Okay. Resolution to read, whereas there is no succession plan for the replacement of the town's current Municipal Emergency Coordinator, MEC, and whereas there is no agreement with East Interlake Emergency Measures Region for an MEC and training position, and whereas the current MEC has been working with a community volunteer for assistance during any emergency that may arise, and whereas this volunteer has proved to be an excellent candidate as part of a succession plan, therefore be it resolved that council support the MEC and training initiative as outlined in the CAO's report.
Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Cool. Get a seconder, please. Councillor Kozlowski. Further discussion? All in favor? Brilliant.
And I will provide an email update with Dawn with this in reference to additional mock training. 2022 draft financial statement. As per the Municipal Act, at first presentation, council is to table this item. There is a CAO report attached, again, just for council consideration in reference to the back-to-back deficits that have incurred.
So I trust that people are, do we not need a resolution for the CAO report? No, we don't. That's just for information. So I'm sure people looked at the draft financial statement of 2022 and the draft financial statement of 2021 that we looked at earlier in the evening. So it looks like there are going to be back-to-back deficits from both years. And as per the Municipal Act, we have to come up with a plan for deficit recovery. We can't just say, oh, well, we were deficit last year, we'll try not to be this year. We actually have to come up with the money that we're in deficit of. And I think we're looking at around $250,000. That will be finalized soon. But it's around $250,000, $253,000. And so we have to look at what we are going to be doing to recover the deficit. And our CAO has laid out what some options might be. Some are more palatable than others. People have had an opportunity to look at this. Can I have some discussion on this, Councillor Gendron?
I actually just have a question. I know, if I'm understanding correctly, that our utilities are supposed to be funding themselves. Is that the situation as well when we're doing deficit recovery?
So there's two different processes. The deficit recovery of the 253 is for the general operating fund only.
Yeah.
It does not include the utility deficits. So the utility deficits, whenever a municipality runs a utility deficit, does have to be presented to the Public Utilities Board. And then there are different avenues, some similar, such as with the accumulated surplus. The verbiage is slightly different looking at our capital surplus with the utility. We are working right now with the Public Utilities Board, but in lieu of recent documentation of the utility project that was to be borne by gas tax, and there was expense of that project in 22 that was not expensed or set up in the GL way that was going to be charged for gas tax or that revenue showing for the utility. There may not be a utility debt. I can't say that until we make those adjustment entries. So we do still have some work to do. But they are two separate entities.
Okay.
So how we would recoup a utility deficit would be either be able to write it off as through capital, or we would be looking at a rate rider. We would not have the exact same options.
So this $253,000 deficit is simply general operating fund.
Correct.
From 2021 and 2022.
Correct, not utility.
And as Sharon has laid out here, we can recover by levy, but that's like 2 mils increase, which,
That's if in 1 year.
in 1 year, yeah.
You do have up to 5 years to recover the funds.
Sorry, just one other question on
Councillor
that is any of this as a result of us not yet being reimbursed for DFA claims?
No.
That's separate consideration.
So that accounting is already set up as receivables, and
Okay.
the expenses
So
are not showing as
can't be
expenses
blamed on that.
It's absolutely has nothing to do with that. So after going through, and that's why when you have an independent auditing firm look through the statements, the two causes that incur in reference to that is or a combination, is one, inappropriate budgeting and not a budgeting for real-time expenditures, or two, simply just overspending. So, or a combination of the two, right? So that's normally why, because anything that you would be able to recover, you do set up as though you've received the revenue to offset those expenses, and it sits in an accounts receivable, which does not hit your revenue and expense accounts. It's a
So
balance sheet.
that'd be all of our DFA expenses.
Correct. So those ledgers have been processed accordingly.
Okay.
So this is strictly revenue and expenses.
Thank you.
Other discussion?
So this is a lengthy process. I will just say that even with the financial statements, so this is tabled. We passed the draft 2021. We have the resolution to pass the draft 21. So the actual now will be presented to council. The auditor will be removing the draft watermarks, and then you will actually accept the final statement. So very similar with the 2022, we will be accepting the draft. Not this time, we're tabling it.
Yep.
We will accept the draft, and then we will accept the final. Once we accept the final in 2020 of 22s, because they're so close knit, that is when I will be writing the letter to the Minister of Municipal Affairs
To let them know.
to let them know what our plan is. So council does have some time to look at some of these options. For the most part, when we look at this on the quick, really the only option that council will have is to look at some sort of levy, as I am positive we will not have the room in accumulated surplus, as both of those budgets had already withdrawn from accumulated surplus. So we will not have the room in there. And in reference to transferring from any of the other reserves, gas tax reserve, this is not an eligible expense, and so we cannot use the gas tax reserve, and our other reserves don't have the balance in it without depleting it to zero. And that I truly do not recommend.
Can we pass the final of the 2021 and the draft of 2022 in the same meeting?
Yes,
Okay.
they're two separate entities, two separate documents. So.
Sorry, it's not better news. Kind of had my fingers crossed there for a while that it might come out different, but that's not the case.
So this item will be tabled as per the municipal act.
Table as per the municipal act, and then we'll start thinking about the resolutions to this.
Item 9:15, change in council meeting date. Be it hereby resolved that the regular meeting of council for April 10th, 2024 be rescheduled for blank due to a conflict with the mayor and CAO's meeting and AMM Spring Convention, and further be it resolved that council authorizes blank to attend the AMM Spring Convention.
Can I get a mover, please? Councilor Jarvis. Can I get a seconder, please? Councilor Hu. Discussion. First of all, do we want to look at the April 10th meeting? And I would imagine canceling would not be helpful because of all the stuff that we're dealing with this spring. Is that correct, Sharon?
It is council decision as to what they would like to do with that.
Okay. Councilor Jarvis?
Can we push it to the 3rd of April? I know that'll be like back to back, but we've got a lot to cover.
And that's giving 2 weeks between the two meetings anyways.
That's
so-
giving 1 week between two meetings.
Well, you have one on the 27th of March, and then a week
Sorry.
later we have the 3rd.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's 1
You
week.
can push it back to the 4th or the 5th, but any time in there, we got a lot of stuff to cover.
We do have a lot of stuff to cover. How are people for April the 3rd? Which is better than coming back from AMM
Yeah,
and going into council, because that's nuts.
we need to have things solved before.
Okay, so April the 3rd?
Correct.
6 o'clock?
Fine with me.
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay. So we also need to talk about the spring convention and, attendance to the spring convention. So I know that, well, we were all registered to go in the fall, but then, you know, some of us got sick and couldn't. And the spring convention is different. I know myself and the CAO will be going, because we have that one-day meeting on the 10th.
The 9th.
On the 9th. I knew that. Do people think it's a good use of our time and money for all of us to be attending?
I like going.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's good for people to go.
Yeah? Councillor Gendron?
While there is great benefit, Sharon, can you just sort of, because there's not a lot of history, what is the difference between the fall and the spring? Do you have any insight into what's what between the two? Is the spring one more geared towards mayors and CAOs versus the fall one, or?
Well, there is a separate day altogether that is just for the mayor and CAOs. And then you have the trade show and some sessions going through. I don't have huge background. Every municipality is different. So my previous municipality did attend sparingly to the spring, and then the main focal point was the November AMM convention, but it is 100%. It varies from municipality to municipality, and I don't think that it's a fair judgment of me to be stating what council would like or would not like to attend.
No, I just meant the difference between the two. That's all I was asking of you, the fall one versus the spring, and sort of the focus. Thank you.
Councillor Jarvis?
I don't know if the new provincial government we have, the 4, I guess, that I've gone to now, the 3. The last one was different from the first 2, and because there was a lot more government representation there. And I actually
That's the
spent,
November.
yeah, but is that typical for November?
It's always November, yeah. So November is really geared for big political movement. That's when you do have the cabinet ministers. There are no minister meetings at the spring.
Because I know I get a lot of information from the trade show and from the booths and that. So I don't know if that was different at and again, if the political people there, but I thought that the last trade show was way better than any of the 2 that I've been to before. So I don't know if that's going to happen like that again, but I actually spent a lot of time there.
That's where we got one of our grants, did we not?
Yeah, but I don't know, again, I'm a newbie, so I don't know. So if I could go to this one and then it could be crummy.
Okay. So council would like all of council to attend?
I think we should go.
Yeah.
Sure. I spent a lot of time there.
So the resolution is rescheduled to April 3rd.
Be it hereby resolved that the regular meeting of council for April 10th, 2024 be rescheduled for April 3rd, 2024 due to conflict with the mayor and CAO's meeting at AMM Spring Convention. And further be it resolved that council and CAO are authorized to attend the AMM Spring Convention.
Can I get a mover, please?
It has
I
been
already
moved.
did that. All in favor? Carried.
Uh, 9.16 cemetery plot refund request.
Is there anything we need to be doing with that now, Sharon?
So the decision, as there is some sensitive information that is provided, but the entire amount, the entire item is not an in-camera item, so that is why it's showing in the regular meeting. I do request of council to defer any decision until after an in-camera discussion, so this item will appear in the agenda after in-camera.
Can we defer the whole discussion to after in camera?
You can.
All right, is council okay with that?
Okay. So item 1.7, recreation grant funding requests. So there is additional information that has been made as of recent. The initial request to apply for 2 of the funding sources being Healthy Together Now and West Shore for recreation services. So you will see more detailed information in your additions package that gives a breakdown of what the grants are for, what the municipal portions would be for. I do recommend at this time, as Councillor Jarvis will be discussing the West Shore Community Grant as a whole, as he was in attendance to that seminar, that no resolution to support the grant at this time until councils have that other discussion about the West Shore grant altogether. However, the Healthy Together Now grant, now that there is additional information which will be uploaded into the agenda package, is basically, in short, there is no cost to the municipality. This is a 100% funded grant. This is an ongoing initiative that the rec center, the rec manager has been working with Healthy Together Now in reference to her drop-in programs for the youth. And so the equipment that they're looking at purchasing for that is all geared towards that's why everything is basically being for the youth, pickleball paddles, badminton sets, hockey nets, and training aids for the nets. It's all geared towards her drop-in costs.
Okay. So
there is a resolution if council would like to look at that particular grant.
Councillor Jarvis.
Can we talk about the grants
Yes.
first? Did everybody get one of these in the grant application?
Yep.
Yeah, so I attended the meeting for West Shore. And I'll go quickly through some of the stuff, because I think a lot of these things that really apply to us. First of all, the grant application the window is February 15th to March 15th. And you can print as many of these as you want. And again, you can submit as many as you want. So we can put in like 10 if we really had to. There will be a presentation, like an in-meeting presentation, that will be required. Like if we decide that we want to get bicycle racks or anything, put that in there, and they want us to get it, then we have to have a meeting with these people. A successful applicant will have, it'll be a signed agreement, and we have to have some sort of a portfolio about with a completed project and paid invoice. Like once they approve your project, like let's say we want to get bicycle racks in Acosta or the cigarette containers for $1,800. We could have submitted an application for that. We pay for it, they reimburse us for whatever the total, the grant or whatever the total cost was. They retain the right to audit your financial records. Okay, so example, if you put it in, project has to be within the boundaries of Matlock to Riverton. Okay, and they do have a cutout, I believe, to Fraserwood or somewhere, goes into number 8. And it must demonstrate sustainability. It can't be like a one-off or 2 years later. It has to be an ongoing project. If there is a need, who will benefit, like have to include who's gonna benefit, and the more people that it benefits, the better, okay? West Shore encourages third-party funding and they'll match other grants. So example, if like with the hockey boards that are in there, if we can get another grant that attaches to that, they might match that grant, so we could end up not having to pay anything. If you get a 50-50, so, and which is really beneficial for us. And it must be completed in 1 year. There are exceptions, they can do an extension, but then you have to meet with them and prove why you need the extension. When we do the actual applications, the easiest thing to remember is who, what, when, where, and why. So you have to, who's it gonna benefit? how many people might benefit from this, why you think you need it, and so on and so forth. Now, I just put down a couple of things, like you can include historical societies, seniors groups, volunteer organizations. The West Shore will work with any of these, that if we want an applicable grant. So I put down a couple of things like, bike racks, the caboose, the beachside park that not beachside, but the footbridge that we wanted, maybe some lighting and some park benches and that, is that if we put in, and they might even put a bike rack, like we can beautify the town. And I think that it's good that we get into some of the larger projects, but there's a truckload of little projects. Even the pickleball courts that Councillor Jean-Claude had mentioned, I think it was on Beachside Park, is that resurfacing them, that they're involved in that, so.
Is it a matching?
They will fully fund, in some cases, the whole project. Like, we could have probably got all of those cigarette butt containers done through the grant. Now, remember, there's a small, I wasn't even knowledgeable about this, but there's a 1 month window. You have February 15th and March 15th to do this. So,
Okay.
but they can, if our rec director gets 20,000 from a provincial grant, they might match 20,000 on hockey boards. So as long as we prove, but the biggest thing is on the who, what, when, where, and why, is just make sure, and all of that. Anyways, I thought it was a good presentation, and there was last year they granted $367,000 in the Interlake, in grants to municipalities and private groups.
Okay.
Is there a dollar
Councillor
price that they'll
Dubowski?
give to us?
Pardon me?
Full, they'll give you 100% if they prove the project. Again, you can't get the street.
Yeah, but in total, like 100,000, 200.
I don't think that was not even mentioned, and I never asked that question. Because it sounds to me that they would rather do 20 little grants
projects.
than one big grant, because they want to service everybody.
Right.
You know what I mean? So when you can put in, say, every one of us we could submit 5 grants, applications. We might get 2 of them, we might get all of them, we might get none of them. But their board will sit down and justify it. Like, I think of right off the bat, bike racks. You know what I mean? And they'll put them, like, they're all over Gimli. You go down Second and you see it says Gimli, and it's provided by West Shore Community Foundation.
The more we put in, the better for us.
Yeah, and I bet you, I'm gonna exaggerate, Gimli has 30 bike racks all over town.
Right.
And they're fully funded by West Shore. So anyways, if I have extra ones, so go nuts, whatever we wanna put together, so.
Okay, so,
Gonna give these to you, and if somebody has ideas, they can just put them through there. I think that the next meeting, when is our next meeting? We should probably come up with spend 20 minutes on what we think we should put on.
February 28th.
February 28th, which is in the window, and the 27th, or 28th, yeah.
this handout here says that West Shore Community Grant Funding opens March 15th to April 15th.
No, the one that I had is 15th of February to March the 15th.
Okay.
So that may have been her, so that's a report from the rec manager?
Right.
I might have the original.
Okay, so she's wanting to apply to West Shore for the rink boards.
So I don't like to be the bearer of bad news, council, but
Okay.
I will.
Yeah.
If we take a look at what West Shore has funded for 2023, and you look at the organizations,
Just quickly. Where is it, March
yeah.
15th?
yeah.
Yeah, it's February 15th to March 15th.
Okay, Councillor, you were saying, Sharon?
If you look on the website of what the grant recipients were for 2023, West Shore did grant a total of just over 59,000, but every one of the entities were an independent. There was not a municipality listed. It was organizations within the municipalities. So Evergreen Basic Needs, Gimli Lawn, Rotary Club, Fraserwood Hall, Gimli Glider Museum, Icelandic Festival, Minerva Hall, Iceland Heritage Museum. So these aren't, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be looking at making grant applications. I just want council to be aware of just that because you put a grant application in does not mean you will receive the funding.
Sure.
So it's not guaranteed funding. So I just want you to realize that. And in 23, the largest grant amount to one entity was 7,000. And so there were a few 7,000s that were issued, but that was the highest grant amount.
This might be information we want to share with the Historical Society. Just saying, Councillor Gendron and then Councillor Kozlowski.
Yeah, the application form is looking for a charitable number.
Right, but
Yeah,
No,
So-
municipalities are
Please
exempt.
don't interrupt. You were finished saying?
So, I mean, I can share it with the Historical Society, but I don't think they're at that stage yet, but I will certainly share this with, being council rep, I will share it with them, but I'm not sure if they're gonna be able to do anything at this point yet, because they're not there yet.
Okay, Councillor
Maybe
Kozlowski.
Peter can shed some light on this subject, if he's done.
well, I can shed
Business
some
with-
light on this project as the CAO and is familiar with grant applications. When we look at this as a municipality, we are a charitable organization. Our business number does allow us, we are able to provide charitable donation receipts. So if we do run a project and people are looking for tax time is upon us, people can donate to the municipality and receive a charitable donation receipt that can be used on income tax time. So we as the town can apply because we are a registered charity in that capacity. However, what I was just alluding to is that the 2023 successful recipients, a municipality was not issued. Now that may be because there are a lot of other organizations who are registered charities within a municipality, and that's why they were successful. In our case, as such as with the Historic Society and the Caboose, the town could be looking at putting an application in under our charitable number for that. I'm not optimistic as in the request for the board replacements. Looking at past practice says a lot about an organization. I'm not hopeful that we would be successful for that. However, I would never discourage putting the application out. I do just want to caution that just because we put the application out does not mean we will be successful.
Councillor Jarvis, you're gonna say?
I was gonna back that up because it does say about the municipalities, and then it does say February 15th to March 15th.
Okay, correct.
So, Carissa's is wrong.
Okay, so what do we, Councillor Gendron?
I'm sorry, there is no date reference on Carissa's note
It's okay.
with regard to West Shore Community Grant, so that, I'm not sure
It's
what.
in your additional.
It was in the
package.
addition package.
Oh,
additional
okay, sorry, I
information
was just
provided.
looking at
It's on the top.
Thank you.
But regardless of that, we have a Healthy Together Now grant resolution before us.
Be it hereby resolved that council support the Healthy Together Now grant application for youth sports equipment as presented by the recreation manager.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Jarvis. Have a seconder, please. Councillor Houle. Further discussion? You'll see in your additional information here. They're looking at this to provide first aid and babysitting courses to the youth in Winnipeg Beach.
No, that's just some of the activities, like it's an ongoing relationship that they've had.
Oh, I
So
see.
this particular, those were some of the past projects that they've applied through
I
with
see.
Healthy Together Now.
Okay,
And so for this year, what they're looking for is, and it is contingent, you don't just get to ask for whatever you want. Healthy Together Now has not released the amount of available funding, 100% per municipality. But she is looking at 1,300 for youth pickleball paddles,
Oh, I see.
badminton sets, hockey nets, and training aids.
okay.
But it is all about the youth drop-in programming, as there is certain criteria to work with this,
Yeah.
with this funding source.
And it's 100% grant, right?
It is 100, there is no
Okay.
cost to the
There'll be no cost to the
municipality.
municipality. Any further discussion on this?
Can we just let Carissa know about the dates, if it is February till March?
Right, that's
Yes.
not about this.
Yes,
This is about the Healthy Together now.
Oh,
Councillor Gendron.
Yeah, I do have a question, and it's just based on previous experience prior to our current CEO and current council. Is there a need for resolutions on grant applications?
This CAO prefers that as the member of staff is putting a project on behalf of the town of Winnipeg Beach, it is imperative to have council support.
Thank you. I
So
appreciate
yes, I expect a resolution for every single grant any member of staff
Good.
is applying for.
Good.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried.
A staff member cannot commit into any agreement without a resolution of council.
Thank you.
Absolutely. We have learned that the hard way.
Okie dokie. So the West Shore Community Grant, I will be tabling that item for council to look at if there are other initiatives, how many initiatives. Unless council is comfortable with the proposal the rec manager has put out, we can place a resolution at this time. But it was an addition that you did receive just tonight. So as past practice, first heard, deferred, council.
I would prefer to defer this if other people are in agreement.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So additions, Crime Stopper signs. Unfortunately, Public Works picked up the signs before I could have one out on display. So because these may be put up in place, I put this as an addition simply because I wanted council to be aware that we did receive free signage with Crime Stoppers. I believe we received 5 signs that can be placed throughout the community. I believe that should be very sufficient. However, if council so desires, once we look at the locations for those sign placements, we can order more, but there would be a cost to the community at that point. So it was just information, but I didn't want something happening in town and council not aware of. Second edition is the fire chief's report, which will be tabled to the committee reports. 10.2, Sadie Grimm celebration request. This item was added to the agenda as an addition simply because they are looking to get early confirmation to be making the plans, and their meeting times are coinciding through there, so it is looking for verification from council. I have a draft resolution prepared. Certainly there needs some clarification on there. Be it resolved that council approve the following for June 9th, 2024, Sadie Grimm celebration and ride, temporary closure of Main Street, use of the bandstand, clarification needed at no charge, ? Town promotion of event, and further be it resolved that council approve Mayor Jackson or delegate to speak at the event.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can I get a
That's
mover,
okay.
please? I'm very distracted right now. That door going. A seconder, please, Councillor Kozlowski. Discussion? Councillor Jarvis.
They've secured that piece of land over off the beach there.
Yeah.
So why aren't they developing, because they have a pavilion right behind them. They're able to open the gate to come down there and use that laneway for their bikes and.
That, I believe, is a picnic shelter. Because we did the presentation last year in terms of that site, and that's not for a bandstand, that's for a picnic shelter. That they are putting Sadie Grimm's name on, but they would like the event at the bandstand where it's always been.
As there will be a band playing.
And there will be a band playing. And we certainly have done this in previous years. I know it happened last year as well, and it was well attended by Derek Johnson and Andrew Swan, and lots of politicians came out for it.
Are they gonna, they're not gonna develop that hunk of land then, they're just gonna,
No, they're in the process of developing it. I'm hoping it's gonna start this spring.
Yeah.
Any other further discussion? No? I would like to suggest that they can use the bandstand at no charge, given that they're gonna be building a picnic shelter, in the park for no charge. All in favor? Carried.
Be it resolved that council accept the committee reports as presented.
Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Houle. Can I get a seconder, please? Councillor Genrun. I trust that folks had the opportunity to read the committee reports that were made available to us, yes? Any questions, comments, or points of discussion? Okay, all in favor? Carried.
12.1 roundtable discussions.
Maybe I'll go first. Myself and the CAO met with Honorable Matt Wheat, the Minister of Justice and Attorney General, whereupon we met with him for a decent period of time and talked about policing issues. I'm trying to remember, sorry Sharon, long day. We talked about policing issues. We also talked about the catch and release, but we also talked about the parking issue, that's right, and about tickets and who has the authority to put out tickets and running it through the provincial program. Did you want to pick up on this one?
Sure. So they are aware that several municipalities have had the discussion in reference to the Municipal Bylaw Enforcement Act and how problematic it is for small municipalities to look at enforce minimal infractions and recoup any costs. So they are aware of that. They are looking at that. They are aware of some of the positions that Mayor Jackson had made reference to. It was evident that the new government is really looking, going forward, really looking at diversion supports, meaning support programs, meaning trying to create programs in place at an early stage of criminal activity before they get caught into the catch and release system themselves. So it was informative. It was in reference to where the direction is. So when we look at additional policing or initiatives that council may want to achieve, keep in mind when it comes to that safety piece, there's not going to be a lot of support in just referencing hiring an officer, so to speak. They really want to see preventative programs in place, and that it appeared that any funding, there has not been any funding rolled out, but it was made fairly clear that that's the type of initiatives and the projects that they're looking at funding.
Councillor General.
Yeah, so based on your discussion, I know, Chris is very strong on drop-in for the kids and a safe place for kids to come. Any thought that maybe something like that would be considered preventative measures or proactive measures to try and, or hard to say at this point?
It's too early to say. The new government really hasn't rolled out any funding initiatives at this time. Even long-standing funding initiatives like the Building Sustainable Communities grant, that has yet to be released. So it's difficult to say what, if any, funding opportunities there are. But what the value that we got from that conversation is looking at moving forward with any kinds of projects for the town of Winnipeg Beach within the next few years. It does seem that it is more on that grassroots funding and not trying to combat some of the societal issues that everyone is facing right now. So it is something to keep in mind if there is of something such as at the community center. But please keep in mind we have one building. We have the community center.
That's right.
That doesn't leave a lot of resources for space. So when you're looking at running any kind of diversion program, where does that get housed?
Prevention program.
Right, so not saying it isn't, it's certainly something that when we look at having additional conversations of vision of recreation and when we start looking at some of the numbers in the budget for 2024, what room is there to have? Certainly researching projects, if there's of interest of council that would like to see something in place, it allows us to research and hypothetically have these projects in our back pocket. So if a funding opportunity becomes available, I'd rather see us proactive where we've already had these conversations. This is what we're looking at creating. This is what we'd like to see, and a program be developed. Whether there's funding or not doesn't mean we follow through with it, but at least when a funding opportunity presents itself, we're able to make that grant application, have the data available versus scrambling during a timeline. So that's...
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Jarvis, you've been a busy guy.
Yeah. Health and safety, had the town health and safety meeting.
Who was that with?
Well, it's with the employees, like Joe, me,
Oh, I see. Okay.
Jody.
Yeah.
Anyways, same thing as last year, clean exhaust, the rec center, the exhaust hoods are kind of deplorable again. And there's a buildup on top of the shield for the electrical panels, and that's something we have to look at. Like, it's not so much a problem in the winter, but when we get positive degrees, grease finds its way into anywhere, and so we've got to either quarterly look at that, doing that quarterly, getting that cleaned, or come up with some sort of a shield to protect that. Joe's also looking into the tears. They've had a couple of in years past. Equipment banging into the building. There's some tears through the sheet metal on the sides, especially on the southwest corner. So he's looking as to whether or not they're punctured. Like when front end loaders and going by and they clip the side of the building, and I mean, for obvious reasons, if there's heat escaping, but small animals and birds can get in through these holes, and so he's looking at fixing that. And then we also talked about, again, through the Work Alone program, and so Joe and Carissa are looking into coming up with some sort of a policy. Because we got a hold of the Manitoba Workplace Safety Sheets, some sort of a policy that they can have, and it's the biggest, and we talked about this in the meeting, is that if somebody's in there alone in the rec center, and we've had some instances recently with some people in there causing some problems, so they're looking at coming up with some sort of a policy or a procedure on how to deal with that. And there is apparently some sort of alarm system in the town office building, but nobody knows how it functions. Nobody knows what if they press the button, what happens. So Jody said
At the rec center?
No, in the town office here. There is some sort of an emergency, like a
Panic alarm?
Yeah, some sort of if let's say somebody came into the, heaven forbid, but if suddenly you were presented with a challenge, you know what I mean? Like, apparently Jody seems to think of some sort of a
Yeah,
mechanism.
I think it lights up a bulb in my office that I have.
Then we might want to look at that, you know what I mean? Because Jody seems to think there's something there, but nobody knows how it works and what it does.
So it's coffee break.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
a bird comes. Anyway, so they are looking into a work alone procedure, because it's something I think, and we've had a couple of recent instances, and we need to address this issue. We talked about that as council.
Yes.
And then I did the community futures. I'll just go through the simple stuff. They had a survey with the members there back on December 6th on reporting on, and created a report on concerns that they had, the 4 or 5 major areas that they had in their community. So I'll go quickly through the business community needs and challenges, and some of I'll do the highlighted parts. Challenges are affordable housing. for employees and growth. Like and it's not just us, every single one in the Interlake right now is just getting, whether they're apartment buildings or some sort of affordable housing, it's finding it hard to attract employees. They're trying to get them from larger centers, but again, if you're moving to Fisher Branch, you have nowhere to live. What are the amenities in Fisher Branch? Blah, blah, blah. And so this is everybody's expressing this as a concern now. And the other one was aging business community. Example, some of the communities, the average length of ownership on a business is anywhere between 20 to 40 years. So you've got, again, like we're looking at Don Eames trying to retire. So you got people that are trying to retire now, and they can't draw new business in to take over that business. So challenges for nonprofit, volunteers. Volunteers. We get the same ones regardless. Every community, we with the same 5 people, and every community do all the work. Another thing that they had was outdated bylaws, and we've addressed that issue as well here, is that with some of the bylaws are just like, when you get one-offs, like example with Boardwalk Days, there's certain things that are attached through bylaws to that event, and it handcuffs other people from participating. So the increased costs, that's another one. Just the costs are skyrocketing, and they're trying to create new business and things like, and it's just hard to attract it. Lack of support, poor attendance. We had a really good Halloween dance, but we didn't have a very successful Christmas at the bandstand. So it's just, they're finding that some things are still supported, and other things now, you're drawing 4 or 5 people. The opportunity that they're looking for right now, the 2 biggest thing, were senior housing, and believe it or not, daycares. Like they are running into problems now where people that, both parents are working. There's no, we're bringing young families or new families into the area, and we have no daycare available. Like we have one here with the tiny tots, but and for discussion purposes, they used to have one on Highway 9 that's inoperable now because they can't get staff for it. So they have a daycare sitting there that nobody can run. So if you're in Petersfield, for example, and you've got 2 jobs, you just moved to Petersfield, but you take your child to Selkirk, or do you take it to Winnipeg Beach? And we talked also about, and we still should put it on our agenda about, call it personal care homes in your community. Have the seniors stay in your community, and that with senior housing, that's a problem right now too. The people in our average age is well into their 50s. You know what I mean? So, and people are now having to move out, whether they go to Selkirk or they go somewhere else, and family and the communities here, and those are the biggest things. And that's all I got.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Jarvis. Have other people been in attendance of other kinds of meetings in the past couple of weeks that you want to report on? Okay, thank you very much.
Be it hereby resolved that correspondence be accepted as circulated.
Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Kozlowski. Can I get a seconder, please? Councillor Jarvis. I trust everybody's had the opportunity to read all of our correspondence. Any questions, comments, points of discussion about any of it? Councillor Jarvis.
Are we going to do anything with the Hudson Bay report on the membership request?
Would you like to do something about the Hudson Bay report?
I'm just wondering, no?
So that is under correspondence, only because in the past I do not see where Town of Winnipeg Beach was a member. So I thought if this was of interest to council, it would be brought forward. So if council would like to be a member of the Hudson Bay annual or membership, we can pass a resolution and it can be listed in the budget, 2024 budget.
Would you like to suggest that, Councillor Jarvis?
Nope, just because I had the office of the drinking water too. I did have about 2 or 3 things in the correspondence, like the drinking water. We don't need to be concerned about that.
Well,
that's happening
you
naturally?
you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
So we by law have to take our water samples in. The province, the Office of Drinking Water decides who gets the contract to do the testing. So whatever
We don't
comes
have a
out
say
of
in
that, we don't have a say in that.
Okay, and the
Yeah.
green team applications have gone through.
And so, so we are working on the routine applications, yeah.
I'm done.
Thank you, Councillor Jarvis. Any other comments, questions, points of discussion about any of our correspondence? Okay, all in favor? Carried. Okay, that wasn't too bad, 8:30.
Be it hereby resolved that council moves in camera at 8:30 PM to discuss matters that are in the preliminary stages and the conduct of an investigation under or enforcement of an act or bylaw. And be it further resolved that any matters discussed while in camera be held confidential until such time as discussed in open council.
Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Jarvis. A seconder, please? Councillor Cole. All in favor? Carried.
And, yes, and resumes the regular meeting of council?
Good one.
Yeah, can I get a mover, please? Councillor Jarvis. Can I get a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor General. All in favor? Carried.
Cemetery Club.
Whereas a request for refund for cemetery plot has been received, and whereas council deems cemetery plot 75C as ineligible for resale due to monuments placed on said lot, therefore be it resolved that council does not agree to buy back cemetery plot, grave plot 75C.
Can I get a mover, please?
That's me.
Thank you, Councillor Jarvis. Can I get a seconder, please? Councillor Kozlowski. All in favor? Carried.
Be it hereby resolved that council adjourns the February 14th, 2024 regular meeting at 9:30 p.m.
Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Kozlowski. Can I get a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Houle. All in favor? Carried. 3.5 hours.